Hey guys, hey, thanks for joining me today. 7410 Power Quad transmission. The filters were plugging. We pulled the sump screen. There was a lot of gunk and sediment in the sump screen. As a betting man that I am, I bet that it was the brakes, and it was not. So now it's time to pull the Power Quad apart. Tractor has a lot of hours on it. So it's time to pull the Power Quad apart and find what disc is coming apart. I hate this kind of thing where you really have no symptom other than contamination. I wish it was like, hey, I've lost forward, or I lost reverse, or I've lost 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or all 4. You know what I mean? But everything works fantastic. We're just getting gunk in the transmission. And so we're going to pull the Power Quad apart and see what we find in there. And then obviously while we're there, we'll probably drop the front wheel clutch pack down and pull the range box off just to inspect that since we're here. 7410, probably one of my most favorite tractors of all time. Like a 6400 for the wife would be better. A little bit smaller tractor, a little more maneuverable, a little better visibility up front for just moving bales all day long every day and just cutting and raking hay. For me, a 7410 would do all that stuff, you know, 90% as good as the 6400. You know, you'd lose a little bit of visibility and a little maneuverability, but you have a better tractor to carry them heavier bales with. But we could set it up for row crops, you know, some duals, 1838 duals in the back, front wheel drive, and then you would have enough tractor to pull the planter if need be. Otherwise it'd be a fantastic spraying tractor, planter in a pitch, plus do all the hay and the cattle. What a magnificent size tractor that would be. We got it out, and so now our first steps, as it goes back together inside, I'll show you how it came out. We'll do this video kind of backwards, change things up a little bit. Living life on the edge is how I like to roll. So I'm going to get these pipes just bungee corded up a little bit, and then we're going to get this power unit off. I got to get some of this plumbing out of our way. You know, we got some stuff to get out of our way. Otherwise, this stuff will just lift up a little bit, sneak this housing right on out, and simple, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And then we'll start tearing it apart and seeing what we get. Maybe I'll tear it apart right here. I don't know what the next few moments are going to bring. Living life on the edge. That's how we started this video. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so we got some of our lines out of the way, some of our wiring harness out of the way. There's a big tube that bolts up under here, and it goes in there, and that's where your sump screen is. Sometimes that can be a bugger to get out, so I've had to actually choke that pipe with like a ratchet strap and then hook up here and get it pulling, then take a rubber mallet and kind of tap down or kind of wiggle the pipe as you're pulling with the ratchet strap. That's how tight it can. It just O-rings into here, but it can still be that tight. This black pipe, 90% of the time, just take your utility knife and slit each end to get it off these barbs. But if the hose seems somewhat pliable, it's not brittle, heat it up with a cigarette lighter. If you heat the ends with a cigarette lighter till they start to get a little hot and smoky, then it usually comes off pretty okay. Otherwise, it will be an act of God to try and get that off of there. And so now we'll see, we got one little shift rod here. And then let's see what else we want to do. One little thing I like to do is I'll put a long bolt back in this cover, anything that I'm trying to separate, so then you can focus on separating it without thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to drop it. And then all you got is just this bolt to worry about. The other thing is, this is aluminum. very soft. I really like a nice, I think you would almost call it like a wood chisel. Very sharp. And I'll always put the tapered side against the steel plate. They got a steel plate between these two aluminums, and put it in there at that angle. And usually within a couple whacks, she'll pop that gasket. And then we'll pull this off. Now, the intermediate plate, you got some thin spots here where there ain't a whole lot of steel. So you might get a little deflection there, but you kind of want to finish on these sides. Start where it's a lot more meaty and start your way around. Like on some of the old 4020s, you had a thin steel plate like this on your shift valve housing or on your clutch cover. Some of them bonded so tight to the gaskets, you just ruined them. It just plain and simple, you just ruined them. This one was stuck on there like nobody's business. So like I said, we have one little warpage. By the time I got around here, it just would not release, so you just worked that chisel around. Remember, when you're doing this for yourself, you're not on the clock. Take your time. And yeah, yep. So now let's work on this next section. Johnny, what's behind door number 3? Let's take this cover off and see what we got going on. Lifting the pack out isn't overly complicated. It's literally wrap it with a couple straps, and take the bolts out, and it comes off. There's just a shaft. You spline into this shaft and you spline into them splines, but coming apart is no big deal. 8 or 10 bolts, just this couple bolts, and it comes off. Ring gear and splash pan, we're sitting right here. Yeah, at this point, not a whole lot to it. It's gonna go kind of complicated real quick. So at this point, start getting ready to take pictures and document, or use your marker stick to mark stuff. Well, it's our first clutch pack. We got springs, you got plates, and this plate wants to fall out as it comes off. The hub just come out of the center. So now I'm going to take these springs and this plating I keep with that housing, however you like to organize. And so, yeah, because there's going to be more plate springs and separator plates in there. So, yep. I pulled the ring gear out. Now you got to orientate this hub to line up with these grooves. If you don't, you'll never get it out. You got your outer gear. It's the tall gear. Rotate him, and then that hub, or plate, not hub, plate will come right out. And there we be. We're kind of all in one step. This planetary can come out this end, and this is your sun gear inside it. That's your 1, 2, and 3rd gear, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd gear. 1, 2, 3, kind of see that. That's just a Russian nesting dolls assembly there. That just kind of comes off this end, and then this came out the other end. And now the housing is fairly light. You got a lot of weight right here and right here. A lot of weight right there. The book actually shows you to use a lifting device, but let's be honest. So there's a big snap ring here. We got to compress this a little bit, and then we can pull this snap ring, and then we can start working this way. So I kind of jump around when I take stuff apart. I'm not I don't know. I'm kind of weird. It's very difficult to kind of just do what you normally do and then try to put it on camera, it's rather difficult. But ready rod, a puller, cup, a wrist pin, and a miscellaneous piece of pipe. Makes a beautiful, beautiful spring compressor. Where is it? Another piece of ready rod. Oh, and there's a piece of pipe on each, welded to each piece of pipe here, piece of round tubing to each square pipe. Then I can pound these in or out of this center bracket to get the diameter I want. And again, then with a piece of ready rod for doing like your power shift transmissions. I thought he could fit across this end, but it just wasn't quite enough. So yeah, ready rod never fails. It's cheap, works fantastic. And so there we go. So let's release that and see what we find behind door number 4. One thing the book isn't going to tell you: to get this piston out, or backing plate, there's this screw right here. He goes all the way up into here. And if you don't take him out, you're going to be there for a while. We've all been there. So let me clear a spot here and get kind of reorganized again. Well, here we go. There's our culprit. It's supposed to have material out here. Here's the other discs from that same pack. You can see the material is there. This plate got chewed up pretty good, so for sure this plate and this plate. While we're here, we'll probably do these 2 discs as well, but the separator plates look really good. The rest of the clutch packs, you take your fingernail and kind of dig a little bit on the facing material. Whoop, see, there we go. He just flaked off. So yep, look at that. Look at that. So we'll probably do all at this, oh boy. At this point, we'll probably do all discs just to cover our own butt. And yeah, yep, look at that. Look at that. That guy's next. See, this is why I make videos for you guys, is to save my own butt. That's hilarious. That is actually hilarious. I was just going to say, you just take your fingernail and scratch, and we'll probably just leave all these discs. They'll be just fine. And then that one just come apart right there. That's live TV for you guys. Live TV. But, yeah. We'll see what the... Yep, both sides are shot. But that's why we still had a good working clutch, is that it was only one plate that failed. And so there we go. Otherwise, we'll still do this unit, this plate, that plate, all discs, gaskets, and seals. Pretty inexpensive transmission overhaul. I like it. More of a refresh. Well, here's that drum that come out of this side. And same thing. The plates are flaking apart. Just, we caught this one just in time. Another, I don't know, can you say within 500 or 1,000 hours you would have had a major failure? You would have started losing gears or directions or, you know, something. But yeah. So perfect time. We just got one left. Just got that one. Let's get him out of there. Right, so we got that one out, tore apart, just like the other ones. We'll need new discs, but now we got another one that's missing all its material on the back side as well. Oh boy. So yeah, fun. There is a bolt now to get this piston housing out. You had that whole planetary, you know, we just saw it a second ago. That's this bolt. So in reference, from your big port here, your 1 valve, 2 valves over, and your second valve from the top, take that bolt out, and then that housing will loosen up. And you can take I take it apart and take it out in pieces by hand. But you can, he'd be sitting in there like that. You can take a couple of these bolt holes and put some bolts through it with the cover and all the clutch and everything still together. And with the picker, you can lift it out as an assembly. That's probably how I'll go back together. But for taking it apart, I just take it apart and take it out. And so, I don't know. There's no wrong way to take stuff apart. It's the going back together when things are critical. Ha! But there you go. There you go. The last main piece is that center plate that's got your sealing rings on it. That's that surface area that one bad plate went against. This one's kind of scratched up. We'll price this plate out. If it ain't too bad, we'll do this plate. If it's super expensive, we'll make that plate work. Might be something that we put in the mill machine and just take a couple thousandths off to just clean it up. Otherwise, it's not the worst. I've seen worse, but again, you've got a bolt that holds it in place, and there's going to be this little alignment lug that goes in there. So the only thing we got left is pop all that valve housing off. And then we've got we're down to a bare bones casting. And then the cleanup begins. And so from a bare bones casting, we get all the gasket surfaces clean. We'll take and steam clean the housing out really good and make it look like new. And everything will be washed and made to look new to go back together. So there's part one of your Power Quad teardown. I guess part two is going to be, you're going to have 2 or 3 parts, 4 parts to put it together. That's a long process. Hard to believe that whole table of stuff came out of that little tiny housing. And then we'll probably have a 20-part series on rolling this thing back together. Oof, a lot of work.